one of their exploration journeys might have led them to modern-day Ohio. An article written by James L. Murphy for the Ohio Historical Society discusses H.K. Landis's description of a hollow brass hemisphere covered with Egyptian hieroglyph. The artifact hints at the possibility of the migration of some Egyptian explorers across the Nile River to North America. The relic has survived centuries since the ancient Egyptians' adventurous journey led them to Ohio. Although there have been some speculations about the authenticity of this hypothesis, it gives credence to the theory that ancient Egyptians once walked along the North American continent, not as enslaved people, but as explorers, checking to see what the continent held. The exploring Egyptians would have likely met with the original inhabitants of Ohio, namely the Erie, Kickapoo, and Shawnee peoples. Like most parts of human history, we don't have this meeting recorded anywhere. Nevertheless, we can be almost sure there was a cultural exchange between the different civilizations. Who knows, there might even have been intermarriages between the North Africans and the Native Americans. The discovery of Egyptians in Ohio, as made known on the JRE show, supports the terrific finding unearthed by scientists in the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is shrouded in many mysteries, and archaeologists have spent decades seeking to uncover answers to puzzling questions about the geological structure. Working with high-tech equipment, archaeologists have spent many years digging through the rocks of the Grand Canyon and searching through its caves, hoping to stumble upon relics that would tell the history of those who once lived in the canyon and how they got there. They finally came across a hidden chamber that bore witness to a discovery that changes our understanding of human civilization, something they never expected to find. The interior of the chamber was like an Egyptian-themed Hollywood film. The only difference was that this wasn't a movie set, but real life. As the archaeologists beamed their flashlights across the walls and floors of the chamber, they were taken back in time to ancient Egypt, with the relics staring back at them, waiting to be interpreted. Their excitement knew no bounds as they gazed at the centuries-old relics that spoke of an ancient civilization. They were astonished to spot artifacts that hinted at a connection between the canyon and ancient Egypt. They most likely thought, what does ancient Egypt in Africa have to do with the Grand Canyon in North America? How did these artifacts that pointed to ancient Egypt find their way to this mysterious cave deep inside the second biggest canyon in the world? Seeing the well-preserved pottery pieces decorated with intricate patterns and symbols was more than enough to rewrite all that the explorers knew about the Grand Canyon. The origin of the pottery pieces was not in doubt because their design mirrored those from ancient Egypt. Still basking in the excitement of their discovery, the archaeologists began by carefully picking up some of the pottery pieces for further study, while they sought a clear understanding of what they were seeing inside the chamber. They didn't have to search for long because they soon stumbled upon hieroglyphs, which made them realize the magnitude of their discovery. The centuries-old hieroglyphs were carved into the walls of the mysterious chamber, with their tapestry and symbols surprisingly preserved over time. Who carved the hieroglyphs? Why was it made? And how long ago was it carved into the walls of the chamber? These were the three questions hanging in the air as the archaeological team walked the length and breadth of the chamber, feasting their eyes on every relic in sight. It was evident that the interpretation of the hieroglyphs' messages could only be made by more experienced minds. The team didn't waste time in reaching out to another team of linguists and Egyptologists, who arrived at the scene to understand and shed more light on the historical artifacts in the cave. The new team began working to decrypt the messages left behind by the ancient Egypt civilization, who once made the Grand Canyon their home. The Egyptologists pieced together the narrative that the ancient Egyptians left inside the room, which led to the creation of an adventurous story that would blow the minds of anyone who heard it. The ancient Egyptians had left the comfort of their palaces and towns to begin a new life in present-day Arizona. The exploration story deciphered from the inscription tells the tale of Egyptian seafarers who journeyed on board ships that took them across the Nile and the Atlantic Ocean to arrive at the Grand Canyon. The Egyptian seafarers traveled thousands of miles, approximately 12,000 kilometers, on water till they arrived at the shores of a new land that would lead them to the steps of the Grand Canyon. They would meet the existing inhabitants of the canyon and befriend them, which would spark a cultural exchange between the two civilizations.